Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is one of the most highly acclaimed shows of all time, and for all the right reasons. The premise is simple yet effective. Two young alchemists, Edward and Alphonse Elric, want to bring their mother back to life by performing a human transmutation, which is known to be a forbidden technique in alchemy. They end up paying a terrible price for their actions. Edward loses a leg, and Alphonse loses his entire physical body. However, Edward manages to move Alphonse's soul into a suit of armor, sacrificing his own arm in the process. This is where their journey to acquire the Philosopher's Stone, which is said to surpass the limitations of alchemy, begins. Full Metal Alchemist's story has many of the ideas seen in actual alchemy, such as the belief in the Philosopher's Stone and the creation of the homunculi, and that's just one of the show's many philosophical ideas. Epistemology is, simply put, the study of knowledge. The definition of truth, however, has been debated for decades. In Full Metal Alchemist, truth is an actual being, the symbolization of God who knows all the world's secrets. In Edward's first meeting with Truth, he is given the knowledge of the world's secrets, but of course at a price. This explains Edward's ability of using alchemy without needing a transmutation circle, but it also raises the interesting question of, if humans were to be given the actual knowledge of the world's mysteries, what would they do with it? And what would be the price? Perhaps sometimes it's better to remain ignorant of the truth, especially in Full Metal Alchemist's case, where he's seen as a rather creepy individual. To dive deeper into understanding what the truth actually is, we'll have to look into its main inspiration, which is something known as Theosophy. Theosophy is defined as a collection of mystical and occultist philosophies, concerning or seeking direct knowledge of the presumed mysteries of life and nature, particularly of the nature of divinity and the origin and purpose of the universe. The term comes from the Greek words theos and sophia, which translate to divine wisdom. Theosophy has something known as the 7 principles of humanity, 2 of which are important in explaining what the truth actually is. Atman and Buddhi, also known as spirit and spiritual intelligence. Atman represents the view of God himself, while Buddhi is the intellectual understanding of God as seen by humans, better known as morality. The combination of these 2 principles is known as monad, which is said to be something beyond human control, something humanity must live under. This combination of Atman and Buddhi is quite close to the description of truth as it appears in Full Metal Alchemist. Both Atman and Buddhi are human concepts, representative of the spiritual nature of humans, hence the truth's appearance being a white featureless reflection of the respective human he encounters. Atman shows the truth's omnipresence, seeing as how he controls alchemy everywhere, while Buddhi shows the truth as a negative reflection of one's own ideas. Understanding truth is just a small but helpful step in uncovering all the religious symbolism seen in the show. Let's move on to something a bit more obvious: Father and the homunculi. Father is the show's main antagonist and embodies many symbols of Christianity, from his name, white clothing, and role as a powerful creator. His children, the homunculi, are based on the 7 deadly sins. These 7 concepts have been popularized as sins by the historic poet Dante, which is the equivalent of Father in the 2003 series. In actuality, Father is not a representation of Jesus, but of Lucifer, the fallen angel. Even his name, Father, is false, almost like he's trying to play God. His character is used as a criticism of the goal of Theosophy. Father's failure was caused by his pride and his constant seeking of God, thinking he would understand everything. Edward Elric acts completely opposite to this idea. He spent his entire life looking for knowledge of some sort, even admitting as a kid that he wants to meet the truth again, thinking that he could solve all his problems with alchemy. At the end of the series, however, he gives up his own gate, accepting the fact that he could never see the truth again. The truth's response to this is, that's the right answer. The truth's goal is to make people realize their mistakes and learn to accept them as part of who they are. Edward is the only one who achieves growth by seeing the truth for what it really is, and finding the most important things in his life. A quite easily recognizable piece of symbolism is the marking on Edward's jacket and Alphonse's armor. The symbol represents Flamel's cross. Nicolas Flamel devoted his life to studying alchemy. Flamel's cross is one of the symbols he left behind after he died, and it shows a serpent wrapping itself around the cross. Another interesting symbol is the marking held by each of the homunculi, also known as the Ouroboros. This symbol represents the endless circle of life, and translates to devouring its tail from Greek. The symbol shows a serpent swallowing its own tail. The way it relates to the homunculi is pretty self-explanatory. In the show, the homunculi have a tendency of dying and being reborn, a lot. That's not the only symbolism regarding the homunculi. The most obvious one is the way each of them die. which is an antithesis to the sin they embody. Lust dies kneeling before a man. Gluttony gets eaten. Envy dies hating himself or being envious of humans. Sloth dies from being too lazy to fight. Wrath is killed a man who overcame his own wrath. Pride is defeated by stooping for something lower than he actually is. And greed dies sacrificing himself after realizing that friends were all he ever needed. Morality is a subjective thing. We can't hold others to the same moral standard that we possess. This raises the question of, if such practices as animal abuse exist in other cultures, do we have the right to call them morally wrong? In Fullmetal Alchemist, morality serves as a background conflict, the Ishvalan War being caused by the religious and cultural differences between the Ishvalans and the Amestrians. It all started when an Amestrian soldier shot an Ishvalan child. Considering Fullmetal Alchemist's World War II Europe aesthetic, this can be seen as a parallel to the Holocaust. Many of the alchemists who participated in the Ishvalan War can justify their actions. The issues of morality always rise up, especially when dealing with war. Another example of the show's portrayal of humanity comes in the story of Shaw Tucker. Human experimentation seems to be a moral problem even in real life. Shaw's goal was the creation of chimeras, human-like beings which are the combination of two or more dissimilar beings. Desperate to become a state alchemist, he sacrificed his wife in order to create the first talking chimera. After many failures and his state license waiting to be renewed, his desperation brought him to create another chimera, this time a combination of his daughter and her dog. As it begs Edward to kill it, the ethical validity of both human and animal experimentation is brought into play. Many believe that the soul and the body are two separate entities that come together to create a complete human being. This philosophy is one of the show's main focuses, as Alphonse exists solely because his soul was transplanted into that suit of armor. Alphonse has to struggle with his own humanity, as people are often afraid or unfriendly to him because of his appearance. He does not abandon the idea of being human though, despite being unable to eat or cry. Existentialism comes into play when Barry the Chopper puts up the question if he was ever human to begin with. It's quite scary to think that the memories you hold so dear could have been just fabrications. Humanity is a constant theme throughout the show, and the homunculi raise the most questions in regards to it. Is the most important part of a human their physical appearance or their emotional self? All of the homunculi possess a physical form, thus all of them could be considered human, but the greed is the only one who can display a variety of emotions. Other homunculi just play human, but fail in actually possessing any feelings. This is without a doubt the show's main theme. Alphonse defines it as, humankind cannot gain anything without first giving something in return. This could be compared to the scientific process of energy conservation. Energy does not disappear, but it is transformed into some other substance. The law of equivalent exchange is a philosophical way of viewing life, coinciding with the sacrifices we make in our own daily lives. Whether it's fame or fortune, nothing can be attained without giving something in return. Despite the value we place on those things being different, they are extremely important and can have a huge impact on our lives.